So today I want to share with you on how to save money on a low income. I don't want to just give you some kind of arbitrary list. I actually want to share with you my story on having a low income and what my wife and I did to actually be able to still save money even though we weren't making a lot. Now, before we get into that, if by any chance this is your first video on the channel, my name is Dennis and we love talking about ways to save money, make money, and invest money. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and tap on that bell if you want to join in on the conversations right away. So when I was coming up with this video, I wanted to make sure that I really shared my story throughout this process because my wife and I were actually for the longest time making very low income. And there's a couple different reasons for it, and I'm going to get into that here in just a moment. But the reason I want to share this is because I think it can actually help out when it comes to going through this process. Because if you are making a low income, there are certain things you can do to still be able to save money even though you're not making a lot. Now, the backstory for my wife and I and why we weren't making a lot of money was actually very simple. We weren't making a lot of money because we actually chose to open up our own businesses. My wife chose one business and I chose this business that you see here with these videos. Now, for us, we knew that it was going to be a short-term loss for us to not be able to bring in a regular income. So we actually took the opportunity of making more money by having regular jobs, taking a cut back, living on a low income to be able to actually make more down the road. And that's something that has changed in the more recent times for us. But that means that for a couple of years, we were actually dealing with a low income, but we still needed to save up for certain goals and also pay off some debt. We're going to talk about that here as well. So there could be many different reasons why you might be on a low income. One of the most common reasons could be because of your location. Cost of living is a real thing, and living in places such as LA or New York can be way more expensive than living in a place like we do, which is in Arizona. Of course, other reasons why people live on a low income could be their education, could also be certain disabilities that don't give them the opportunity to make as much as other people. Now, we live in a day and age where opportunities are at our fingertips with the internet. So there are plenty of ways to be able to start making more money and being able to save more. But without going much into making more money and just having the impact on what you actually are currently making, we're gonna get into that right here. Now, for us, we were living on a low income for a little over 2 years while we were building up our businesses. And as I mentioned, we had to find ways to be able to save money towards certain goals. Now, we had an emergency fund and we had different savings goals that we needed to hit, as well as paying off some debt, and of course, just being able to live in general. Now, one of the most effective ways to be able to save money while on a low income is by having multiple bank accounts and knowing where your money is going. This is so critical when it comes to being able to save money on this low income because every little penny at this point really does make an impact. Now for us, we've actually talked about it here on the channel where I have over 7 different bank accounts to be able to manage my money. What I'll do for you guys is actually link it in the show notes down below and at the end of this video so you guys can check it out. So don't click away just yet because I have a few more different tips to go over. So the next thing to do when you have a low income is to really prioritize the things that are most important to you. Now, for a lot of people, that means maybe the newest and latest technology, but with a low income, you do have to take into consideration what is actually a necessity versus a want. And that can be really, really tough for a lot of people. So when we look at it, yes, having a phone can be considered a necessity in this day and age, but not necessarily, $1,000 iPhone. There are some great phones out there that can be low cost, or even used phones that can go 2-3 generations behind, still good quality, but not as expensive. So knowing what is important and what's not, what is considered required versus what's considered a want can go a very long way. Pay attention to these things and you can actually save a lot of money while on this low income. So before we continue on with this video, let me know that you're getting value out of this video by hitting that like button down below. And then while you're down there in the comment section, let me know, do you have any tips of helping you save money while you are on a low income? Anything that can go in the comment sections can help so many other people. So give us your best tip that you have and I'll definitely check them out and let you guys know what I think as well. So I kind of alluded to this one earlier, but knowing where your money is going to be a great way to be able to save more of it, especially on a low income. Now, budgets I know can be a dirty word to some people, but budgets can really go a long way to help people understand what's coming in and what's going out. Now, if you are not a fan of budgets, I actually have a video that I will link up down below, again, after this video is completed, for for you to check out to see how you can make the simplest budget ever, where you're not even having to use a pen and paper or apps on your phone. It is super easy, and I think you'll enjoy it. Again, I'll link it in the show notes down below for you to check out after this one's done. So during this 2+ years of us living on a low income, my wife and I were able to still save around 20% of our income. Now, that's not the most in the world. There's other people out there saving anywhere from like 40 to 80% of their income. But for a low income, that is actually still a good amount because, of course, we still had expenses that we could not necessarily give up on, right? We still needed internet in the house. We still needed, insurance for our cars. But the interesting thing about those things is that they can be negotiated with a lot of companies. You can actually call in and try to negotiate your rates with these companies to get a better deal and or even lower the tiers of whatever service you're using. So for example, our internet provider, we were kind of on the second to top tier when it came to internet speeds. So we decided to knock it down one speed over here at the house, and that actually saved us well over $25 a month. If you do the math, that is a decent amount of money that you're going to be saving every single year just from lowering your speeds. Now, going to the bottom tier is probably a whole different story, but at least if you are looking into the options of going with smaller tiers, maybe even having less features available for you can still save you a lot of money because maybe those features are not necessities when it comes to the package that you currently have. This, of course, works with cable companies and even insurance companies as well. You can talk to your insurance companies to see if you can get a lower rate, or better yet, even just look around for different rates with different companies. Now, I promise you this, these companies are not loyal to you, so don't be loyal to them, and make sure that you do your research and look for different companies, and don't feel obligated to stay with a company just because you've been with them for so long. So cutting down our bills was one great way to actually be able to save more money. If we didn't cut those bills down, we wouldn't have as much to be able to put towards emergency funds, towards our other sinking funds for future purchases that we either needed and or sometimes even wanted, but were strategic enough to the point where we weren't just wasting our actual income. So saving money on a low income can seem very daunting for somebody who's never actually been able to save money to begin with. And with a little income, it can seem very daunting to build up any type of savings. Now, if you have a checking and a savings account currently, it's not going to do very much if you just move over your money into your regular savings, because that means you'll have quick access to that money if you so chose to, which we tend to have impulse purchases as somebody who doesn't have a lot to already save. Now, one of my best tips I can ever give you would be to actually open up a secondary savings account with a completely different bank. Now, I've talked about having multiple different bank accounts, but having a separate savings account in a completely different bank can honestly go such a long way. Now, it's kind of one of those out of sight, out of mind situations because you're not necessarily seeing it every single time you log into your regular bank. Having a little bit of money transferred every time to this online savings account can really go a long way. And there's tons of great online banks for you to actually utilize. We personally use Capital One 360 for our regular banking and a few other banks to test out with different online banks. I'll leave some in the show notes down below. You guys can check them out if you want to, so that way you have different banks to utilize, which of course won't have any fees because I am not a fan of paying fees. And that's the next tip we're going to talk about here is fees with your bank. If you have a bank that charges you extraordinary amounts of money for overdraft fees and late fees and all these other things, you might want to consider switching banks because that can actually lead to you saving a decent amount of money. Now, I'm a big fan of online banks. I think they're fantastic to be able to utilize to, one, save money on all those crazy fees, but then two, a lot of them have some amazing interest rates to be able to earn money in the money that you have in your savings. Now, of course, switching banks can be difficult, but it doesn't have to be that tedious if you actually just put a little bit of time into it, and you'll be able to move all your processes over to this new bank. So just like cable companies and insurance companies, don't feel loyal to one company. Don't feel like you have to give everything just because you've been with a bank for so long. Switching banks can actually be very beneficial for you. There's banks out there that will actually pay you to transfer. Do you ever notice that a lot of the offers that banks and car insurance companies and all these other companies offer are for the new customers, but nothing for the old ones? That's because they favor all the new customers versus somebody that's already staying with them. because they know that you will not do the work to transfer over to somebody new unless they give somebody else an incentive, which is why they give new customers one and not typically the old customers to stick around with them. So earlier we talked about alluding to making more money. Now again, this is not a video talking about how to make more money, just more about how to save on a low income. But one thing I do implore for anybody that's watching this video that is currently on a low income is to not keep that in the mindset that that's where you're gonna be forever. You wanna have a mindset and a plan in place in your future where you're gonna be able to make more money. Whether that is a raise at work, a promotion, or even doing something for yourself that can lead to a full-time job so that way you can get out of the position that you're in. A lot of times this comes with education, whether it's formal or even informal. The World Wide Web is out there for you to be able to learn so many amazing things. When I got started here on YouTube, I had no idea what I was doing, but I had a plan in place to be able to get to a point in my life where I didn't have to work a regular job. So keep this in mind when you're going through this process of finding out ways to save money on low income, is to also keep in mind that you're not gonna wanna be in this position for a very long time. So if you wanna keep on bettering your finances, check out this video right over here where I go over having multiple bank accounts. And then this one right over here is gonna be talking about the simplest budget ever. And I promise you, it is super simple. If you made it this far into the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.